Hello, it is Janine, your keynote speaker on everything brain capital arts, neurosomatic creativity, intercultural creativity, lots of terms, just all about the brain. And today we are talking about the importance of you understanding why creativity is so important, especially in these times where AI is coming up and doing its thing. It's taking a lot of the remote and even the non-remote activities and tasks and jobs, and we need to make sure that we are exercising our brains. And so today I'm going to talk about moving the invisible to the visible. What does that mean? First of all, you are a tree. It sounds weird. You are a tree. You're like walking trees. And this was a wonderful phenomenon. I just came into a revelation about more or less recently. In my studies of mitochondria, and I was looking up a lot of the work of Dr. Martin Picard, and he is a wonderful, mitochondrial researcher. One of the tops, is definitely in the nation, but maybe even around the world. Highly recommend looking at his work, because when we think about it, we are in effect just energy, right? There's energy flowing through our body, there's energy flowing through our brains, right? Electricity, there's water in there, lots of neurochemicals, but energy. And the example that Dr. Martin Picard says is, the difference between a cadaver and you is that there's energy flowing through you. There's no energy, even though everything else is there, body's there, hair's there, the kneecaps are there, everything is there, but no energy. And so what does that mean when we think about our creative thinking? Is creativity a form of energy? And so when I was doing investigation on trees, for some reason, I was just watching a lecture on trees. It was fascinating, called the Feynman Way. It's not actually Richard Feynman, but it's the way that he teaches. And they really looked at a tree and how the tree, the leaves take in the energy from the sun. And Dr. Martin talked about this, about how energy or just the light will continue traveling in a straight line until there is an impact, a struggle, or stress, right? So he talked about how stress is actually needed to grow. But when the sunlight energy comes and hits the leaf goes into photosynthesis and turns that energy into things that we see, like the food, the sugars, things like that. And so because of photosynthesis, the light is turned into sugars. And because of that, it continues to grow the tree. Another thing that the tree lecture talked about, which was fascinating, was when we breathe out carbon dioxide, right? Carbon and oxygen, dioxide. The trees take our carbon dioxide, strip the carbon away, and take a carbon, which is a gas, right, invisible, and pull it in to make the visible. I love that. Trees take the carbon and pull it in and use it to turn it into bark, to turn it into leaves, to make the roots, and then eventually make the fruit, right? This isn't fruit, it's actually chapstick, but I'm using it to be fruit. And I just want to leave you with that idea that the trees are using the invisible carbon, and then all this stuff is going on and it's pulling the sunlight in to make something visible that you touch. And what the lecture told me, which blew my mind, I never thought of it this way, is that when you're touching a tree, when you're touching the roots and the bark and even the fruit, you're touching crystallized sunlight. You're touching solidified atmosphere. You're touching something that was invisible and now it's visible. It's there. It provides shade. It provides shelter for so many living creatures, and the birds and the insects and the squirrels and the hummingbirds. It provides food for you and me, right? All of the plants that come out of the ground and the fruit that comes off the tree came from crystallized sunlight and solidified air, came from the invisible to the visible. And so what does that mean for you in this time as we move into this unknown time? AI is moving so fast that our ability to take the invisible to the visible is key. We need to look at the word idea. Idea comes from the Latin from the Greek, which means form, pattern, and to look or see. Form, pattern, to look or see. And so that's why I advocate for the arts, because arts is all about form and pattern, right? But we're not talking about the arts today. But so when you're doing that, when you're bringing your ideas, your invisible ideas, you're bringing them through this amazing organ, and there's different ways to interact with this amazing organ. Some of you have heard me talk about your default mode network, talk about brain breaks, talk about the power of your cerebellum that monitors your prefrontal cortex, talk about moving your mitochondria around, and your mitochondria, right, the powerhouse of the cell. But Dr. Martin Picard says it does so much more. So that's just one of the functions. All of these interacting together to help you move your invisible ideas into something visible. And so this was an invisible idea. I was like, I should write another book with my son. This was the first one that we wrote. Sean's doing all these creative things, and he was 3 when we did this one. This is the republished one, but the first one we did when he was 3. And I'm just watching him in his environment. And I wonder if I can write a book with a 3-year-old, and I'm taking what he's doing and I'm putting it in a book. And then at the back, I explain to the parents what he's doing and why he's doing it, and how do we develop that, and how do we support that and guide that, so his brain can be really just well-rounded with all of these 16 diamond tools. And that was an invisible idea that we pulled in, and it went through everything. We typed it up. My husband illustrated it, and now it's a visible book. It's a tangible object. This was invisible at one moment. Do you think about your ideas as an invisible idea that you can move into the tangible? And so I wanted to make that point in this live today for your creativity in the era of AI, that when you create, that is your psychic income, right? Your financial income is the check you get at the end of the week, or whenever payday is, or if you're self-employed, whenever your clients send you their invoice, that is your tangible financial income. Your psychic income, which psyche means your mind, your emotional income, is something I had yesterday, where I went to the library with my son to do a read aloud. My brain, my beautiful brain. We read this book. And there's a little 4-year-old. She came up and she hugged Sparky, and she just hugged the brain. She hugged her brain, and my heart just melted, because this was an idea, right? We got this image online, but putting it into a plushie, that was like, what if we put it to a plushie so kids can actually see their brain? They can actually get it out from this abstract concept, and they can hold their brain. How are you good to your brain today? Did you give your brain water today? What type of color foods did you give your brain, right? They can actually talk to the brain and teach the brain how to breathe, and make sure the brain has its breaks and it's sitting down, taking some quiet time, right? They can actually physically move it. That was an invisible idea that we moved into the tangible to be visible. So that was invisible that we moved to the tangible. And that gives me my psychic income, my emotional income, knowing that our work is out there in thousands of homes. Our books are out there. So what gives you your psychic income? It's not a check. It's not a paid invoice. What gives you that purpose work, that making meaning work? And lastly, I want to debut. So excited. Our Spark cards came in the mail, the first one. And I love filming myself opening the box when we get a box of books in the mail that I haven't seen before. And just, it's a feeling like no other. And if you have a chance to write a book, even if it's a small book or a children's book, there's no feeling like it, because it's something that you get to see the bridge of your invisible work, your invisible ideas, to actually see them visible, bound in a book. And so this is that. Spark cards, I had the idea to say, okay, well, this book is great. It gives parents the, different ideas of the different parts of the brain and different ways the brain could be smart. And this gives you 16 diamond tools of creative thinking. And then I also put it into a curriculum. So, okay, here's 8 lessons to do with kinesthetic intelligence, or here's 6 lessons to do with musical intelligence or naturalistic intelligence. But this is kind of thick. Not too many, just everyday parents may want to read this. So I said, okay, well, what's a fast way that a parent could read the anchor book, right? My Brain, My Beautiful Brain, or I Am Creative, or any other one of our anchor books, and just get one quick activity to do that's attached to that page, that they can know that it supports their brain health, it supports the brain health of their child. And so we labeled these spark cards because of sparky the brain, and you have electricity in your brain. That's the currency it runs on. So your mitochondria. And so these are spark cards, and they came in the mail. When you get them, you get the instructions on how to use them. So excited. And all the different intelligences I go over. I review kinesthetic, logical, linguistic, interpersonal, natural, and spatial. And then we get to the spark cards. If you see, they're different colors because there's different colors that correspond with the colors in the book. And so if you're reading the book and you go through the brain parts, so the cerebellum and all that. But if you're reading the book and you want to see all the different ways the brain can be smart, the first one is naturalistic intelligence. And so these are the naturalistic sparks. You see how they match in color. And so let's say I read about the naturalistic ones and says, so great information is found in the trees, nature's systems and ways spark my mind like a breeze. And then you can grab a spark card. You can use it for a day. You can use this one card for the whole week, for 3 days. It's up to you. But the way it's split up is there is a quote at the top. You can read the quote, talk about the quote with your child or your partner, and you can think about what it means to you. You can dance it out, draw it out. There's so many ways to interact just with the quote. And then there's the other section called Are You More Like? A big creative task is comparing yourself or seeing yourself through the lens of something else. It helps you shift perspective. It helps you get some cognitive reframing going on looking at things in a different way. And then you have 1 or 2 activities at the bottom that connect with the type of intelligence that I talk about. So this one is taking a brain break out in nature. Pause for 5 minutes, 5 times a day, 5 on 5. Step away from tasks to stretch, dance, walk, meditate, and rest your mind. And then I give you some activities to do. Taking brain breaks are so important. So you can just say, you know what, this week I'm just going to focus on this card, and I'm just going to make sure I take my 5 brain breaks throughout the day. And so, yeah, we have the naturalistic cards, and there's different quotes on each card, and there's different Are You More Like? Perspective shifting activities, and then there's the actual activity. There's different ones per each card, and on all these cards there is an image. And so in the directions, I give you some things to think about with the images. So some questions you can ask is, let's see. Where's the first one? Some questions you can ask about the pictures is, what do you notice? What stands out? What connections can you form? Or what sounds might you hear? There's an image of a fruit basket back there. There's an image of a little boy reading. There's an image of a girl picking flowers. And so just to know how to interact with images. What can your imagination um, bring up. So here's the spatial intelligence cards. You can use these. You can go through all the same colors. You can mix and match. Then we have linguistic intelligence. You have your quote, your are you more like, and activities. And so, once again, we have to remember that this is an analog brain, right? The brain loves to touch things, smell, feel things, interact, move throughout space, think about things in new ways. And that's why the Are You More Like is a wonderful activity to do almost every day to make sure that your brain is getting the dexterity, the flexibility, all that good exercise. And these cards are attached to this book that you can learn more about. So having this be an invisible idea that now is visibly in my hand and will soon, this is the first one. And then this is just a proof. So they had to send me this proof to make sure I approved it. And now to send these out when people order their Brainalicious kits or they order their creativity box, these are a part of the kit and they get to exercise their brain, interact with their family and their kids and their students in very interesting ways. And they get to be the best they can be in this era of AI. It is a brain capital era, which means brain health and brain skills. And these cards strengthen both. And so that's what I wanted to leave you with today. Make sure that you exercise your brain. You think about the psychic income of your work or whatever you're able to contribute. That's the emotional and purpose work that you're doing. And don't forget, every time you think of an idea, that's an invisible thing. But which ideas are you going to move through, like a tree, moving the sunlight and moving the carbon out of the air into visible material that doesn't just help the tree, but I can get oxygen from it. A tree is a habitat for thousands and thousands of species. A tree gives us fruit and food. A tree gives us shelter and wood to build. The house that I'm in is made from trees. Trees around you. You are a tree. You are creative and you are meant to do something great. Please stay tuned for the next one, and I will see you next time. Bye.